Now entering the squared circle pit, Health's John Famiglietti. I almost got it.
Thank you.
But thank you for doing the show.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've listened to most of the episodes. You talked to a bunch of guys I kind of know or do know, so I was pretty tickled by that.
On the musician side, I'm guessing.
Definitely, I do not know any wrestlers personally.
Did you feel like you learned anything from listening to Squared Circle Pit?
Yes.
What did you learn?
I think
really.
I think that the majority of musician types have they've pretty much all been watching it since they're a little kid up until now, or pretty much everyone you talk to.
Yeah. Is your story a little different?
Yes, I think I've been a less typical one. I think I'm more of a I'm actually like a more of a recent wrestling fan. Like I watched as a little kid. I like when I in the I think probably early 90s, and I watched. They used to have a program Saturday morning, and then after that there was WCW on a different Saturday morning channel, and I'd watch those two. And then every once in a while we'd stay up late and we'd watch one at night. My older cousin and I. So I watched that. Was into it for a while. You get older, and then about the time Attitude Era type started getting really popular in the mainstream. People were like, "Hey, Hulk Hogan is a bad guy," and I was like, "Oh my god, oh wow!" So we got into it. We all saved up money. We got Starrcade '97, and we were so confused by it and really bummed by the end. We just were like, "Man, fuck wrestling."
That was the one with Sting, right?
Yeah, and we're just like, we didn't understand it. We're like, what? Because now that I'm older, checking the history, the finish, and everything, we were so confused. And we were really bummed. And then to us, it was like this insane amount of money. So we were just like, man, fuck wrestling. And then so I basically missed the Attitude Era,
Mm-hmm. Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
That's hilarious that you checked in at basically the end of the peak of the NWO, because that Starrcade '97 was the beginning of the end. So it's funny that you were like, oh no, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
Because it was.
Really funny, because my wrestling buddies that I go to everything with in LA, they watch as little kids. The Attitude Era is this is a defining moment in middle school and high school or whatever. New metal, all that stuff is just this kind of moment in time. So only, of course, the big stuff that came through, but I never watched Raw in my life, nothing. And so only about several years ago, I've always liked the wrestlers and the concept of wrestling, but I never watched wrestling, never enjoyed watching them. Even as a little kid, I never liked the matches. It was really boring, but I really liked the characters. So I started watching these wrestling documentaries, and I was really loved Beyond the Mat, and then I started watching all the WWE ones, and I really loved watching them, but I couldn't really get into the wrestling or the show. And then 5 years ago or something like that, I noticed getting older, a lot of my friends are suddenly out of nowhere super into sports, like football or basketball, and I was like, I don't really like sports. I'm like, oh fuck it, I'll just get into wrestling. So I just called my buddy and I'm like, hey, so what's up with wrestling now? And he took me to some live Raws and trying to tell me about this and that, and nothing was really hooking me, but I still wanted to kind of get into it, but I wasn't really getting that emotional connection. And then I discovered New Japan. I think I saw AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura on YouTube because it's a free match, and it was kind of everything I'd been imagining or sort of looking for. And then from that, it just sort of through YouTube, I guess I could be almost everything YouTube, but I started listening to shoot interviews or Adam Blampied and What Culture, and then it just keeps I don't know, the algorithms keeps trying to radicalize you. And so next thing I know, I'm listening to the Wrestling Observer Live or Wrestling with Regret, or pretty much all day when I walk my dogs or any spare moment, I'm listening to some sort of wrestling news or YouTube follow-up.
Or infotainment.
Yeah.
So let's take a step back. Do you remember anything notable happening on the Raws that you went to where you were like, this is not really drawing me in?
It's just the matches weren't getting me. There was okay, I remember there was one. I actually went to one that The Rock showed up at, and that was exciting. Because they were shooting that Fighting with My Family.
Oh yeah.
I watched the movie. It's a pretty decent movie. I kept I think I saw myself in one of the wide shots. I'm not 100% on that. So that was notable. There was some storyline with Bailey giving the belt back. Enzo Amore. Oh, I went to No Mercy pay-per-view. It was all right. It's
what was the main event? They all just blend together from here.
I went to several Raws. There was one with Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar. Samoa Joe choked Brock Lesnar, and then they had this ambulance thing. That was kind of cool. No Mercy. I think there's AJ's. I can't remember. Oh, Enzo Amore won the belt from Pac or Neville.
Right.
Yeah. I remember that.
Okay, so this was like 2 years ago or something like that.
Oh, did I have 2 years ago? I think I went to Raw's before that then. Oh, whatever. Maybe it was only 2 years ago.
But recently.
Yeah.
Like not, so how recently did you get into New Japan?
New Japan probably once I was I can't remember the exact date, but I've been subscribing to New Japan for over a year, like a year and a half only. So maybe it is only 2 years. I went to some guy you interviewed, Kyle Mabson. He took me to PWG. I went to like one of the last shows in Reseda. Then I saw like 2 at the Globe. And even that was really cool because you're up close, but that wasn't like, I didn't get anything emotional. And then I started going to the New Japan events. So I went to the one at the Long Beach Pyramid, and the main event was Young Bucks Golden Lovers. And that's finally when I felt the juice. Like I got this crazy emotional, just excited out of my feet, on my feet, just like live thing where I'm like, oh, I get it now. It's like it was with music too. There's this show that you see and you're like, oh, this is how it is. This is the beat chasing. And that like blew, now I'd seen great, for me also, like, I think like that AJ Shinsuke or like, I went, because all the time I saw the Okada Omegas, and then that's finally when I saw like wrestling matches where I was like yelling at the screen or like really invested, like it was getting me emotionally. Whereas basically up until that point, till seeing New Japan matches, I had like nothing, like no emotional response.
I absolutely know what you mean, especially with those Okada Omega matches. Like, did you watch all 3 of their trilogy, or was it 3?
4.
Yeah, it was 3.
4, yeah.
4? It was 4.
By the fourth, I was a New Japan subscriber, and my buddies were coming over because the cool thing was they were like, WWE guys for their entire lives, and they were not hip to New Japan. So I got to be like, it's kind of similar to how I got into music. Basically getting wrestling. I'm a hipster too, or I'm like, oh, actually, there's this cooler, whatever. For fun.
Yeah. Right, it's true, and it really is I feel like to be a New Japan fan in America is akin to being like a music hipster, because they really don't make it that easy for you to be a fan, and you have to go out of your way, set up the translation tool, and really like seek it out, because there's no weekly show. You have to kind of keep up with their schedule and understand how they do things. But once you're in and once you understand their process, it is so rewarding that I felt, as you have, I got to get more people into this so I can like talk to people about it.
Yeah, I got weirdly emotionally invested in the New Japan sort of US expansion. And obviously, and like I got really obsessed with Kenny Omega. He's my favorite, but I really like the other guys at the top there too. So I would be like, buying, I couldn't, last minute people cancel. I drove alone with 2 tickets to SF to watch the one at the Cow Palace. And I was like really sad it wasn't sold out. And then like being really bummed at like, oh, this one's not selling that good. And I'd always be checking the ticket sales or whatever. And like got way too wrapped up in the that's how I went to the G1 in Dallas. And that's kind of how I felt. Like I was like, wait a minute, how are there only 4,000 tickets sold to this, 13,000, 14,000 person arena? This is the fucking G1 for the 29th year, first year in America. Like, this is going to be huge. And I was bummed because I was like, oh, it's not going to be the same experience because it's going to be an empty arena. It might be depressing. But I have to tell you, once the show started, it felt like there were 13,000 people in there because everyone was so hyped to be there. There were no casuals. Everyone was a hardcore. You know what I mean? Yeah, I saw like the Okada Tanahashi. It's just like, it's crazy loud, like the screaming. It's like, it sounds nuts. And that's
that moment when the bell rang, like everybody, myself included, just marked out so hard. Like, holy cow, we're witnessing Tanahashi versus Okada, the main event that they could offer right now,
Yeah, I think that's also a big problem. I think New Japan is really bad at marketing, and also the rise of AEW totally, because it was the same time before it was called AEW, really nerfed the entire New Japan expansion, and it was with the same guys. And like, I went to the Long Beach Pyramid, sold out immediately. And then right as that was happening, they were trying to announce like a bunch of other shows, maybe too many. And then All In was happening too. And every guy I know who's like spending way too much money on going to these events, like went to All In. I had a ticket to All In, but last one we had to do was some band stuff. But like
thanks a lot, band.
Yeah. Well, then actually also I went to Double or Nothing. This is I don't know if this is going to be a thing from now on. We bought secondhand tickets in the cheapest seats, because we couldn't get them in time. Went to Vegas. Show started. And I'm like, seems like a lot of empty seats down there because I've been so many scalpers. So we just like walked down and I watched the whole thing from like second row, not on the floor, but second row bleachers. Like if you watch Double or Nothing, you can see my face on the camera. Like I got a shot in there.
That's great. Yeah, I mean that always I kind of try to do that as well. If I know I don't have the best seats, like I won seats to a big show on a giveaway, and I was like, all right, these have to be like crappy seats. There's no way they're gonna give me like floor tickets. But so like what I would do is go on StubHub, and like the tickets stay up until doors open. So you can see like half an hour before the show where the unsold tickets are and kind of like plot your way through to be like, oh, I can sneak into this section after a few matches or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they stop checking after 2 matches.
Oh, of course. They don't care. And also that wrestling fans are pretty nice people, kind of meek. They're way less often be like, hey, what the fuck are you doing here? Like they're like, oh, I guess you're sitting here, man.
That's so true. Like there was a MSG house show, same kind of thing. Somebody left me a ticket, God bless their souls, and it was in like the nosebleeds, and it was to the point that I'm like, do I even want to go to the show? And I'm like, wait, you got a free show to Madison Square Garden, you got a free ticket to Madison Square Garden, you have to go. And I just kind of walked into the lower level. I got there a little late. And it was the funniest thing because I didn't even know where I was going. I was just walking down the stairs, and then I just happened to stop just to look to see where there was an empty seat. And the person at the very end of the aisle just got up and was like, oh, go right ahead. Like they were letting me in. I'm like, oh shit. All right. I guess I'll go in here. And there happened to be 2 seats in the middle of that aisle that nobody claimed. And I was like, all right, I'll sit here. And nobody ever came. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I think with the secondhand market, like all the sellouts are quote unquote not fake, but there's just so many scalper tickets that are there, or even Ticketmasters or whoever the fuck's doing it.
It's not that it's like the company made the money, but the seat isn't necessarily filled.
Well, like didn't even
scalper takes the loss.
It came out recently, like Metallica or their management, I would assume, like they agreed to like they were holding like this pretty large amount.
Yes. So there was a thing before, like in the it stopped because Ticketmaster kind of figured out a way around it, but. For the last few years, all the big acts, they would basically on the down low kind of hoard a selection of the tickets and put them on the secondary market themselves because they were getting pissed off that scalpers were profiting off of their business. Like it's a really weird thing because you want to give your audience a good deal, but if it's too good of a deal, you're kind of like undervaluing yourself, and scalpers come in and capitalize on it. So they don't want Joe Schmo to do it. They'll capitalize on it. So, but now Ticketmaster does it automatically.
Yeah, StubHub is Ticketmaster, so they're already doing it too.
Oh wow, okay.
I'm pretty sure StubHub is.
StubHub was a different.
I think it's like man, Ticketmaster's the most like fucked up scheme.
Yeah. But that's for a different podcast. We're here wrestling. But to take it back a little, so something, as you know, I've asked most of my guests, what came to you first, pro wrestling or heavy metal?
Definitely. Well, actually, pro wrestling, because I watched as a little kid. I didn't even like music until I was like fucking 12, or like someone had to show me to get me into music. Like I'd heard stuff, but like I didn't like wasn't a fan, but I was a fan as a little kid of wrestling, so I guess wrestling. But I didn't really stick with wrestling until very recently.
What was like the music that drew you in?
To music? Well, first actually was punk. So I think a lot of my friends sent me a cassette tape, one side Dead Kennedys, other side Sonic Youth. And then from that point when I was actually listening to any metal, I think just like for everybody, it's Black Sabbath for me. Black Sabbath is one of my favorite bands of all time. And then also in San Diego, where I grew up, they had a mandatory Metallica every night on the radio. So everything and my best buddy, like everything is Metallica. It's Metallica, and everything sort of trickled off that. Or we'd be hang out with my reject buddies. So we had my friend, his older brother was like way older than us, like 9 years, and he had no job, and we would just like hang out with him and like buy him beer, and he would like we'd get high, and he'd like play guitar in front of us. and I didn't know it at the time, but he was just playing these Metallica songs, and I thought he was like the most brilliant guitar player in the world. But then I found out like a year later. And most of the shit we got in through him because he was this super. He kind of looked like James Hetfield, and he cut all his hair to look like the '90s era James Hetfield, and we borrowed all his CDs, and he got us into like a lot of classic rock and heavy metal and Iron Maiden and shit like that.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, you mentioned AEW and how it kind of killed New Japan. I was also very worried when they left because I was like, man, I really love seeing Kenny Omega in New Japan. Like Young Bucks, I love those guys, but I mean, I don't need to see them in New Japan. I actually felt like they should have left New Japan because they weren't really integrated into the stories that last year. They were kind of just like special guests that would come on the big shows.
Yeah.
Same with Cody. But like Kenny Omega was like in it. He was doing those tag matches. He was on the full tours. And I love that.
Fucking, this is the greatest ever. I mean, or maybe, I don't know, greatest now. Just
well,
him and a few other guys.
It's like it's hard to say because he has had like 2 matches in this year. So it's like
that's actually this year.
It's not the greatest this year.
Yeah. And also this year, AEW is kind of a weird fit because basically if I'm running AEW, you got to sell us to America, but like I feel like the whole system is just set up for Kenny to have the real matches like he did in New Japan, like in an American setting with these American vibe, and they don't have an opponent for him. There is no
Agreed.
Top guy who is Kenny's match that he can have those matches with. There's no one on their roster right now. I mean,
like I feel like with Jericho, for example, at Double or Nothing, it's like that was like a main event style match, quote unquote. That was Omega doing more of a Jericho match. Jericho can't keep up with Omega.
Well, Wrestle Kingdom was fucking awesome. I think Jericho was like, I can't do that again. I'm a fucking old man. Like he took the 1 Wing Angel on a fucking chair. I think that must like this is an insane match, and so they didn't go even half as hard at Double or Nothing,
Yeah. So when they all left, I was kind of worried for New Japan. Like, am I still gonna love New Japan? And I'm happy to report, I love New Japan more than ever. And I think, in a way, like the losses, like I feel you kind of feel Kenny being gone. Other than that, it's like they're just as good as ever, and they've replenished their roster. It's great. Like their pacing is my favorite pacing of any pro wrestling company.
No, they kind of do everything. I don't know how New Japan does it. Like they can always create new stars. Because I was basically like, well, I'm done with New Japan now, and I'm watching. I'm like, you don't even need to think that Kenny's not there because like they have all those dudes at top, and they're creating new guys. Like I'm watching the G1, like shit, these mid card guys are fucking cool. Like I'm super getting into it. The only thing I'm like weird on is like I know Jay White was supposed to be this like Kenny replacement or something, or like, oh, he's like a cool edgy white guy, and it's like it's not. That's the only thing I'm like, I don't know, maybe he's
just their top white guy, like their top gaijin, as they say.
But like Will Ospreay is like he's basically the new Kenny.
I agree.
He's fucking crazy, and like that him and Okada the G1 is like fucking insane. Like he could be Wrestle Kingdom headliner and do fucking Kenny match. Period. He's
agreed.
Amazing.
He's one of the few people that I feel have gotten to that level that you're talking about. And with this G1, all of his matches have been must see.
They're amazing. I just don't want him to get paralyzed.
I agree. It's very scary watching him, and Ibushi too with his broken ankle.
Which is fucking crazy. He's a top guy.
He's my favorite. Yeah, like he's my absolute favorite.
I thought he was gonna go to AEW, but I think my favorite guys and just like a character who I'm gonna mark out the hardest for in New Japan is just Naito because he's so fucking cool, and he must be really cool because I don't even know what the fuck he's saying. Doesn't even speak English. So I really like the gimmick. Not 100% sure what it's about, but like in terms of what he's saying, but everything New Japan, you just get it. You can just watch it, and be really into the guys, and it's like it's really cool. I like his ring gear too. I don't know if this is a thing for you, but I really prefer wrestlers with pants. But I like how Naito has shorts with the knee pads. I feel like to rock old school trunks, you gotta be really buff or really big. That's a very weird personal thing.
So how did you feel when Okada went from the trunks to the pants back to the trunks? I think he wore the trunks better for Okada. Yeah.
Trunks are better. For some reason, the pants are weird. But what I like his, not like Naito's, he's got more of like basketball shorts on. Like they're a little longer, a little more like bike shorts.
Yeah.
It's good luck.
Yeah, I mean, they got their looks down in New Japan, I feel like. They know what they're doing with presentation.
Oh, that's the thing. So New Japan, that's what got me immediately when I was, kind of trying to get into wrestling, is that I love the presentation, the way the camera is shot, how it's really dark, the look of the ring. And even it's kind of funny that's like the I don't know if it's like works in their favor. The streams, it's not full HD. It's like kinda.
That's so frustrating for me. It's like 480p. Like it's not quite 720p.
Yeah, it's like not great, which is bullshit. But it does weird. It's like this artificial, not grittiness, but like everything about the presentation of New Japan feels very, very cool and very real. Like they don't do any crazy whip pans or it's like the presentation is awesome. Like it's like arty.
It's presented like sport, like you're watching a basketball game or a soccer game. Whereas WWE is presented like they try to present it as entertainment, like an action show, and it just doesn't work.
Well, that would be fine if they were really, really good at that. Like it's really scripted, it's really fictional, but you have these amazing cliffhangers and storylines. But that's not what's happening. So you just don't. You're just like, huh? It's just weird, and it is too bright. Like old WWE doesn't look like that. But I love the New Japan presentation is my ultimate favorite. So that's what I thought AEW is basically going to do, because I feel like New Japan had kind of the perfect product or close to it. It's actually, in retrospect, it is so Japanese. And so a lot of things are not what Americans are going to want in wrestling. So I figured AEW was going to do that. But watching AEW now, it seems like it's going to be a lot more WWE than I thought, which is probably the right thing to do. I think that's what Americans want.
What are your thoughts? What have you been following the AEW shows?
Like, yeah, I went Double Nothing. I watched I watched Fyter Fest, and I did not watch what's the new one?
For the Fall.
Did not watch that. Fyter Fest is all right, but it wasn't like Double or Nothing was really good. I thought I was kind of there, so maybe I might have been a little swayed by it.
No, it was really good. I watched it on TV. It was great.
I didn't give a fuck about the undercard or the pre-show, but that's usually with everything. Honestly, I think that's always the most wrestling shows. I'm way more about the main events, but it's the Double or Nothing was great.
Yeah, the undercard was awesome. I mean, all the matches were great there. I feel like as they have to find their pacing, like they're like kind of, you were saying they're doing a little more WWE. I kind of think there's some things they do more WWE. There's some things they do Japan. There's some things that they do. It's just tongue-in-cheek comedy, but there's no like cohesiveness to it. It feels like a mixtape, like every match is like a different thing. Just happens to be happening in the same arena. And as interesting as that sounds, like it might work on a PWG show, I'm not sure it would work as a weekly thing. Yeah. I hold my reservations until I see how they do it weekly, because it's just one-off shows.
No, there's so much stuff on there where I think it's like that's way too like indie-tastic or super indie shit. It's like,
and it gets overwhelming. Like if you're not watching, like I'm following their YouTube clips, like they have their weekly mini episodes, which is fun. But if you're not doing that, and most of their audience at these bigger shows aren't, you have no idea who these people are. And I feel that they didn't do a really good job of introducing these new characters. They just kind of show up on screen, and you have to kind of figure out for yourself what the character is.
Like I don't know how much more time I can put into following wrestling shit on YouTube. However, I do not watch Being the Elite because I find it like really not funny. And so like there's all this shit the whole show. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Who the fuck is this?
That's a great point. Yeah, like if you're not watching, I kind of scan through it. I get what you're saying. Like some of their attempts at comedy are just not good. And it's like when I kind of can pick up what the joke is, I just scan through, because there is storyline development in that show. But they do have another series called like The Road to, like right now, Road to All Out, and that's all serious. Japan. Yeah, and those are actually they're really good. They're really good promos. Like John Moxley just did a really good promo about his match. Awesome. So the promo he did about his match with Kenny Omega at All Out, he's saying like, I'm studying you. I'm in Japan right now to learn about the ghost of Kenny Omega and see what your wrestling style is all about. So he kind of like put in his G1 excursion as part of his AEW storyline, which is awesome.
Yeah, and also, I don't know if you find this. So I find John Moxley, like, I never really cared about Dean Ambrose. I'm like, damn, John Moxley's fucking cool. And this is, I don't know if you feel the same way. Every time he's on screen, I just laugh my ass off because when he comes on stage, my buddy and I were joking, it's like he's stone cold, but he's on Molly. Like he just did a shitload of Molly. And the second he hit the stage, because he's like rolling his shoulder. So especially in America, his mouth's open. It's like his mouth's dry.
I totally see it now. You're right.
He's ball. It's like, oh, I feel so good.
Molly or some sort of amphetamine. He just took some speed.
Yeah. And it's all like he likes getting hurt because he's just rolling so hard. Feels great. You know, it cracks me up.
And so with the G1, do you have like some standout matches? Because you're all caught up. I'm a little behind on the last night, but what are your
Okada and Ospreay is number one for me. Obviously, that's like what I like about wrestling is I'm not like an expert in it, so I just respond to what I respond, which is great because this shit I get into, I'm like too into it, or music, like I do music, so you start looking at it differently. So for me, like all the New Japan stuff I like with all the crazy ass shit, like that was fucking amazing. I really wanted Ospreay to go over. I thought he was going over. New Japan really gets you with the near falls. I don't know how they do it. Mm-hmm. I think they have a formula, but it really works. It really works on me. And obviously the Moxley Ishii, I don't know if that's really 5 stars, but I'm no fucking wrestling pro. I really liked it though. I thought it was a great match. All the Moxley matches have been pretty awesome. Moxley's really cool. I didn't know he was like, I don't know what the difference is when you leave promotions. Do they just let you do your own match in New Japan, or they have their own system?
I think they do. Yeah. Like he's not as restricted. Like that's the kind of the whole thing, I feel.
Yeah.
I agree. Those are the 2 best matches of the whole thing so far. Under that, I would say was Ibushi and Ospreay. Like if that Okada and Ospreay match wasn't around, everyone would be talking about Ibushi and Ospreay, especially because Ibushi had a broken ankle, and 2 days before Ospreay couldn't even get out of bed. Like that's nuts to think about how great of a match they had when both of them were injured.
You know what's fucked up? If you get injured as a wrestler, you have to put that injury into the storyline. So then your match, everyone has to hit you where you're like in pain.
Yeah, I always think about that, how much that must suck, because you want to be like, hey, take it easy on my arm, but it has to be the other way just so it makes sense in the story or whatever. And from the first night, I thought Ospreay and Lance Archer was great. And like I never really cared about Lance Archer until this.
I don't know who he was.
Yeah, every Ishii is like one of my top guys in general. The Stone Pitbull, like his match with Jeff Cobb, he always delivers.
Yeah, so the G1, I basically went because I never really paid attention to mid-card or whatever in New Japan that much, and I now through watching G1, I think like Ishii is like really fucking cool. Like obviously he's been around, but I never watched any of his matches really. I like this because it's a really goofy ass gimmick. This Taichi just cracks me up. This like heel like Final Fantasy dude gimmick. It's just really because New Japan's all like highbrow, but they still do all kinds of stupid shit, you know.
Yeah, like Naito. I mean not Naito. Yano.
Yano beating Naito. That fucking. I was like, what the fuck is this?
That was amazing.
People had told me like, oh, it's like this comedy wrestler, like it's like Japanese sensibility or something. But like, you know, wrestling is wrestling. Like even in New Japan, they still do hilarious, goofy ass shit sometimes, you know.
Right, yeah. Like what I love about Yano is like his superpower is his brain, like his smarts. He can't beat you wrestling because he's not as good of a wrestler as Naito or Okada, but he has all these tricks to cheat, and like to be a good wrestler, you have to counteract his cheating. So it's like a completely different match than any other match. Kind of like a Zack Sabre match where like all of his matches are just him putting you in a pretzel hold and you have to get out of it, you know? Like
yeah, I'm one of the people in the crowd who like I don't fully get Zack Sabre Jr. because it's like it's really weird. I've seen him a bunch of times though because he's done like tons of indies and stuff in LA. But like yeah, it's really submission stuff in wrestling is always really weird because like it's you know now with MMA you know what submission kind of looks like. Mm-hmm. And it's like someone submits, it always makes them look weak. So it's like it's really complicated sometimes.
Well, what I like about Zach, though, like I get what you're saying with the looking weak, though, but what's great about his style is he will get you in a submission where it is literally impossible to escape. You can't move your arms, you can't move your legs. You have no choice but to submit. So even like the strongest, toughest guy, like he has a way to beat him, you know? So it's like that's his superpower. So that's kind of what I feel he is an acquired taste, though.
That's true. Well, that is cool. It mixes stuff up because, you know, watching G1, I'm watching so many fucking matches in a row, and they're all so great. And what's great about New Japan is everyone is pretty much like all the heels are strong. Everyone's strong. So everyone's match is insane. it does get kind of like desensitizing. Like I'm watching so many matches in a row that are all amazing, but they're just all hard hitting and so it's good to have something to mix it up. And like even Toriano, like, hey, it's different, it's funny or whatever.
Right, yeah, and exactly. It's like you're having matches daily, so you gotta do something new, something different. So these guys kind of change it up, and I like it.
Yeah. Most of all the foreign guys I was not familiar with, like Jeff Cobb. Is he like an indie guy or something, or?
Yeah, well, he's in Ring of Honor and he's been in PWG. Yeah, like he's basically been all around the indies and he's been great. I don't know if you've seen Lucha Underground. He was on that show.
I don't even know how you could follow so many things. Like New Japan, I now AEW. I kind of follow other stuff with YouTube, but like, man, that's so much fucking wrestling. It's really hard.
I agree. Yeah, it's hard to keep up for sure, especially with New Japan right now with the G1.
Yeah.
That just becomes my priority. I haven't really been watching NXT or scanning through Raw for the most part, but got to see the G1 though.
Oh yeah. Well, this is my first time actually. Last year I was like, I'm going to do it. And then like, didn't get around to it. And then it was like, I've like unsubscribed everything on Twitter or Instagram because I'm having match results spoiled. And that was the hardest thing at New Japan because it's like the time zone. You don't want to stay them to watch it live.
Well, the positive of being on the West Coast is it's more doable. Like the shows start at like 11 or something at night.
But the shows are like 4 hours. So the main event, like 5. Yeah. So we wanted to watch Kenny and Okada live, and it was gonna be like that's gonna go on like 6 a.m. I was like, God damn it! But then I got up and I checked my fucking phone, immediately spoiled, and I was like, God damn it! Like that would have been so awesome if I didn't know the finish,
Yeah. So on those big show days, I just set up like mute filters. Yeah, like I delete Instagram off my phone.
That's great.
I don't want the because I'm the same. Like I don't mind being spoiled, but it's so much better when you don't know the result.
Oh no, it's awesome. Also, like then I fully mark out for all the, the near falls, everything, because that's not knowing.
Sometimes New Japan is so good, I could know the result, and I will be still marking out for the near falls when I know, like, no, this guy isn't winning. Like it still grips me sometimes.
Yeah, New Japan does that. They like lead you to. I don't know how they do it. They lead you to it, or they'll do. I love that they do stuff that is not always to it. Sometimes it's one, or they'll do shit. They did a shit. I think before I saw one show, they actually counted the 3, but it didn't count. So they totally faked you out, and it was crazy. They went like I forgot what show that was. Was that the one on Long Beach? It was awesome, like really awesome.
Yeah, they know what they're doing there. So who do you think is going to win the G1 or go to the finals?
Well, I was assuming that I thought it was going to be like Naito or Ibushi, and then that's the Wrestle Kingdom main event. Because like Naito, he still like he lost. What was it, Wrestle Kingdom 12? He lost the main event. Like, isn't he due? I mean, he's the coolest guy. But
yeah, he is too.
But now it's like, and then Okada is undefeated, and then Moxley's undefeated, and then Kenta's undefeated. So like, I mean, as long as I like Moxley, I'm like, damn, you're just gonna have this guy just run trains through the whole G1. I guess. Is that the plan? And then does he just fight? That's not as exciting to me. Then so he fights Okada, and then Okada beats him, but then Okada can choose his opponent. I don't know. It's not as exciting for me. So I know it's possible to come from behind, which is cool. I would really thought it was going to be Ibushi or something.
Ibushi could still win it if he wins all of his matches.
And that would be really exciting because that would be
because I think also like with Okada, he usually loses towards the end. Like I could see Sonata beating Okada because they've wrestled like 6 times and Okada's always beat him.
I can't believe they didn't get Ospreay. Oh, here's one thing too with the G1. Obviously, it's really cool. Guys from same factions can fight each other. Because almost all the stories in the ring, I feel like they didn't do enough storytelling where it's like Okada's gonna fight Ospreay. He's literally gonna beat the shit out of him. That there's some sort of like Japanese honor code where it's like, oh, we are on the same team, but now we will fight each other. We will not go easy on each other. Something like that, just for the storyline.
The reason they actually did that very specific story, I think they're trying to not repeat themselves because last year they faced each other for the anniversary show, and it was that like, oh, you're my teammate, but like at the anniversary show, like there's always a tradition that the world champion faces the junior champ, so they face each other, and that was kind of the story they told there, that he was trying to take it easy on him, but Ospreay was like, no, I'm going to beat you, so you better stop.
That's pretty sweet. And so many things that New Japan does is really, really cool. That.
Yeah, man. I mean, you don't got to tell me. I got tickets today for New York and Philly for that tour that's coming.
I have tickets. I'm doing the Super J Cup in Long Beach again. I don't even know who's on it though. That's the weird thing too. They announced the shows without the card. So
yeah,
I hope Ospreay is there. I don't know if he needs to
be.
be.
He's definitely on there. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay, that's great. Okay, it's worth it.
He's gonna be there. Show and Yo. I got like a flyer for it at the Dallas show. It was like Show, Yo, Ospreay, Phantasmo, Dragon Lee, who's amazing.
I saw
Carisco.
SF where Dragon Lee broke Time Bomb.
Oh God,
that was horrible.
Yeah,
is he okay?
He's still recovering. He should have been back, so I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
But it's going to be fun. Yeah, the Super J Cup. Then they're doing the US shows, and if you're listening and you hear us talking about New Japan, you want to get in it. It's on Access TV Saturday nights. Perfect time to start watching. John, thank you so much for hanging out on the Squared Circle Pit.
Oh yeah, I have this idea for, you can cut this out, but for future people, because you're mostly you interview a lot of musicians, you should do like a James Lipton 5 question at the end, so you could ask who their favorite wrestler is. If they were a wrestler, what would they be? Would they be a heel or face, a gimmick, their look, their finisher, and their entrance music? And then I suppose you'd reverse it for a wrestler. You could ask them if they were what their favorite band, what kind of band they would be in.
All right, I like that. I'm going to start it right now. But you have to ask yourself the questions because I don't.
Oh, okay. All right, shit. I should have thought about this a little more. I think this is a lot more funny if I imagine myself as a WWE style wrestler because you can be a lot funnier. I think this is probably a bad idea. I would be a heel, like a tech billionaire heel, like a Steve Jobs kind of character, who looks kind of like a really buff Steve Jobs, and he's a total asshole, and he drinks Soylent and thinks he does everything better than everyone, and he's super rich. Sorry, it's the best thing out. Finisher, I think the best finishers are ones you can do without a whole lot of setup, so it'd have to be something like a DDT or like a Stone Cold Stunner or RKO, something you can do really fast. So some twist on that. And then entrance music, I would do King Knight by Salem.
Oh, all right, I like it.
Yeah,
that's a good.
So I guess if I was in New Japan style, I guess I don't know Japanese culture that well enough. I would assume since I'm half Korean, I would have some sort of Korean gimmick because Japanese and Koreans don't like each other, and then I'd be I would talk shit about Japan the whole time, so I'd be like a total heel, badass.
Oh. Nice. I didn't realize Japanese people and Korean people didn't like each other.
I got a complicated history.
That's fair. All right. Well, John, do you want to promote the band? How can people check out the band?
Oh,
we didn't really talk about your band.
Oh, yeah. So please check out our latest album. It's called Volume 4 Slaves of Fear. Metal Injection gave it a 9 out of 10. So, yeah. Check that out. We're on Spotify, everywhere. Instagram.
The band is Health, by the way. Yeah, we should mention Health. Like your health, like for your health.
For your health. Oh, I guess we are technically, I guess you'd say industrial, but that might give you pretty hard to define. Band _health_ is our Instagram, and thank you. Please check us out.
Yeah, very noisy industrial. It's good stuff. John, this was awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me here in the Square Circle Pit.
Thank you for having me, Rob.